Good morning, guys. So it's Monday, and today basically I'm working on putting together a new portfolio to approach certain brands here in Spain. And while I was doing my marketing, I thought, why not share it with you guys what exactly I do and what all you can do as commercial photographers in 2025, right? And before we get into marketing, first let's understand where exactly the demand is for commercial photography. Now, it doesn't matter what brand it is, whether these are the high end global brands or the mid segment to startup boutique brands. Every single brand would need to have content in these three categories. First is, of course, the pack shots or the e commerce. The second is creating digital content for social media. And the third are these, big shot ad campaigns. And as a commercial photographer, you can either specialize in one of these categories or you can decide to shoot across all three categories. And why I'm saying so is because the way you work in every single category varies a lot. Now, in my case, since I've already narrowed down my specialization to shooting, cosmetics and drinks, I shoot across all three categories. So I create these high-end luxury pack shots. I create high-end content for social media, and I also do these high-end ad campaigns, right? Now, how the workflow varies between all three categories, let's understand that first by taking an example of a cosmetic brand. So, what happens with a cosmetic brand is that they would have various range of products. Let's say a lipstick lineup, a nail paint lineup, or if it's a skincare product lineup, various other products. So every couple of weeks or every couple of months, they would come up with new products, new shades, new additions to their lineup, and they would need to have pack shots for every single product, right? Now, the advantage of shooting these e-commerce pack shots is first that the lighting setup is pretty standard, right? So once you have figured out the products that you're going to shoot and you have figured out the lighting setup around it, it will remain pretty much the same. So all you need to do is shoot the products in bulk one after the other in the same lighting set. Okay, so technically it is relatively easier to shoot these photos. The second advantage is that the chances of getting repeat business is much higher, right? So if you have a couple of brands in your business, the chances of getting repeat shoots is much higher because they would need to create these pack shots very frequently, right? Now, the way I charge also varies between these three categories. When it comes to pack shots, I would charge on a per photo basis, right? So that both myself and my client already know that this is a fixed price for the photo, and we need to shoot these many photos together. So this will be the budgeting for that, right? Now, let's talk about the second category, which is when you are creating these, digital content for social media. In this case, the lighting setup changes, depending on the brief, right? Because here you are creating these conceptual shot as per the brief. So depending on the brief for every single project, there would be a different lighting setup or different things involved in the production, right? But the production usually involved in a social media shoot is much lower than the production involved for the advertising shoots, generally speaking. Now, the way I charge for social media content also varies because here I'm charging for the entire project as a whole, right? Because it depends on the kind of brief that I receive for the shoot. But generally speaking, you are working with smaller teams or you're working all alone, and usually the production is smaller, right? And now let's come to the third category, which is the advertising shoots. Now, you need to understand that the brands are not doing these ad campaigns on a regular basis, right? They would come up with these campaigns only a couple of times in a year. So the frequency is not that high, and the chances of getting repeat business again is not high, right? But for these advertising shoots, the production involved is much bigger, the budgets are higher, the stakes are higher, and therefore the pressure is also high, right? So, as a photographer, you first need to decide whether you want to work in a single category and specialize in that, or do you want to work across all these three categories, right? Now, once you have made that decision, Then comes the second part where you need to decide the brands that you want to work for. Now, of course, when it comes to brands, every photographer wants to work with the biggest and coolest brands in the world, like the McDonald's and the Johnny Walkers of the advertising world. And you want to create the best of campaigns and shoot the fancy, the really high-end fancy photos. But at the same time, you need to understand that when it comes to these high-end global brands, these brands have all the budget in the world to work with the best creatives, the best agencies, and the best photographers globally, right? So the competition there is also very stiff. Now, how you do your marketing for these kind of shoots is a whole different game altogether, and I think I'll cover that up in another episode. So today, let's just focus on the mid segment to startup boutique brands, because the chances of getting projects for these brands is much higher. These brands are continuously looking out for photographers who can create really high end content within their budget, right? So in this case, when you're finalizing or shortlisting the brands, look out for brands in your local area or in your country, because these days it's very easy to do remote shoots, and I do it all the time where I receive these products in my studio and we connect online and do the shoots remotely. So it's also possible to connect with brands in your country, other than your city. So, when it comes to shortlisting these brands, look out for brands who have a really nice lineup of products, beautiful products, but their photos or content is not at par with the global brands, right? So you can always approach these brands and tell them that as a photographer, how you can enhance their visuals for for e-commerce pack shots and for social media, how you can uplift their brand identity by creating these high-end photos within their budget. And when it comes to budget, and this you will also you will only get to know once you get in touch with the brand and you're talking for a finalizing a project. Make sure that the budget also falls within your range. Don't work for really low end budgets. Try and look for a range which suits both the photographer and the brand, right? Now, once you have shortlisted these brands, let's now move on to the next step, which is creating a customized portfolio for that particular brand. Like in this case, we took an example of a cosmetic brand. So when you're sharing your portfolio or you're pitching for work, don't share your generic portfolio. And what do I mean by that? I mean, let's just open up my website here and let me show you my generic portfolio, right? So when I go to my website, and in fact, let me just get this closer. The Wi-Fi is taking some time today. Okay, let me try it again. Just hold on a second. There we go. Right, so this is my homepage or the general overview of my work. Here you see a couple of cosmetic photos. Then there are some drink shots, right? Again, some drinks, then cosmetics. So it's a mix of everything that I do. Now, I don't want to share these drink shots with the cosmetic brands, right? So I won't be sharing this portfolio or the link of my website with the cosmetic brand. Instead, what I'll do is I will create a customized portfolio. I will put together some images that the brand would be interested in, right? Because when it comes to a cosmetic shoots, they won't be interested in seeing what I'm doing for the drink brands, right? And I don't share all of my work on my website. So here, there's a very, very selected collection of photos on the website just to give the clients a general overview of my style of work. But when it comes to approaching specific brands, I always create a very, specific portfolio that would meet their needs. Right, so once your customized portfolio is sorted, then let's move on to the next step, which is defining a workflow. You need to have a system in place when it comes to creating these visuals. And by workflow, what I mean is how are you going to create these photos and videos? Now, again, my advice would be not to imitate and copy what other photographers are doing or how they are working. You do it the way you like it. And whether you like to work alone, do it that way. If you want to work with a small team, you do it that way. Whichever way suits you, do it that way. Because in advertising, Nothing is by the book. And all the client wants is to create good enough photos or videos within their budget. They don't care about whether you use some fancy equipment for your shoots or how big of a team it was, how many people were involved in the shoot. Nothing matters. All they want is to create good enough visuals within their budget, right? Now, the interesting part here is, and especially in 2025, looking at the innovations in AI. Now, even as a solopreneur or a photographer working alone, you have, endless possibilities in defining your workflow, because now you can create visuals that were earlier possible only with a big production team, right? So using AI or using virtual environments, virtual backgrounds offer innovative solutions to the brands that you can do right now, which was not possible a couple of years back, right? So be innovative, try to create these solutions that will attract the brands and convince these brands to work with you, right? So this is what exactly I am doing for my marketing. Let me know what you guys are doing, or if you have any questions or any thoughts regarding marketing, do let me know in the comments, and I'll see you on in the next one. Cheers.